Alright, today on the gun bench, I'm going to look at the Wheeler Engineering Sight Pusher. I've been using this for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. And since I did the FNX video, I decided I will show you how to use it and kind of a review on it, I guess, and installation sights. We're going to be putting these Trijicon XDs back on my Mmp 2.0 slide. So I'll show you more about the pusher right now. So retail on this is about 120 to 150. I believe I paid like 120 for it on sale from Midway or Brownell's, one of them. And it's in that middle range of sight pushers. You know, you can get the ones off Amazon, the blue one that's like $40. Then you can get, some other ones, and then you can go up to like the MGWs that are 300 and some, plus, 25, $30 per sight, like the pusher itself, the block. Those are individual for each gun. So depending on what you're doing, this may be, if you're only doing a few sights here and there, more hobby style use, then this might be the right pusher for you. I like it. I've used it on quite a few sites, not only just installing sights, but doing adjustments, or like the FNX, actually having to remove sights to do a disassembly on. So, I'll show you a few things about it and how it actually works. So those two locking nuts come off, and then the top half removes. So the top half, of course, you have the big 4 post turning wheel here, which I like, but I'll show you here more about that here in a minute. And then the actual pushing block itself has a straight wall for most sights, like the Mmp, the Trijicons I'm putting on, or it also has a slanted section for like Glock sights mainly, but some other slanted sights. You can take these 2 bolts out here, rotate it 180 degrees, put them back in, and then you can move your Glock sight. So this is a very universal tool. I've used it on, the Mmp, Glocks, Beretta, the FNX, CZ. I'm trying to think of any more I've done, but I've used it on quite a few, and it's all worked pretty well with them. XDS, that was the other one. So even hard sights like the XDs, this did pretty well on for the money. So on your top half, you have kind of a indicator here on both sides. You can kind of get your sight adjustments in right, but when you're removing one, you can also kind of line it up, just look straight, see where what number, what line you're on, and then memorize that. And when you put them back on, you put that pretty much right there, and you'll be pretty dead on to where you were before. The bottom half has 4 locking arms or bolts here that help keep the slide in place, and they also have these machined lines in the bottom to help you true up the slide. So when I put the slide in, after I get the front to back where I need it to be, I can line them up with the lines before I set my locking arms. You see it's kind of off there. Kind of get it straight, and then I can set my other ones. Just keep doing that until they're snug down pretty well. So let's go ahead and remove the Mmp sights. The first thing that I'll do, that I recommend, is putting a little masking tape where you're going to be removing these sights. So I'm going to do front and back sights here. So I'm just going to put a piece here. Not that it'll mar it up. I've done sights with this without doing them. Especially this is my gun, so I'm okay with it. If it got a little dinged up, but yeah, if it was a customer's gun or something, then we'd want to take extra precaution and maybe even double tape here. So I do recommend putting masking tape there. Another thing you can do is mark the sight. These are marked. These sights have been on this Mmp before. I took them off and put these back on for the video, to be honest. I didn't have any night sights that I needed to put on any guns. Pretty much I'm covered right now. So I took them off, put the old sights back on just so I could do a full demonstration. So what I'm going to do now is get this lined up, the lock, and make sure it's in the middle of the sights. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and then I'm going to drop this down on top of it. And I'll show you another thing. It's got this right here. That can be either way depending on the slide. And that is your depth gauge pretty much. So I can have it down. Let me get this over in the middle. And I can set that gauge. When I look at it, you can see how high this is going to be. So let me get it in the middle where it needs to be first, and then I'll set the depth. So about right there is okay. So now I'm going to get it lined up and look down these lines and get it as true in this fixture as I can. A little bit over in the back. Tighten those up pretty, just snug. You don't want it moving around. So I'll tighten those up. And now I can drop this back on. Have a look where I'm at. And I can see that I can still go maybe one turn lower. So I'm going to pull this, turn it counterclockwise to drop it. Might be able to go one more turn. We'll see. Snug it up. And what you want to make sure that you're doing is you're not getting into the slide at all. And I think we'll be pretty good right there. So now I've got that all lined up, I'll put the two washers on the top. Another thing I shouldn't have to use, but I have before, is on the bottom. It's milled out here to where I can set it in my vise. So if I'm really putting torque on sights, I'll be able to do that. One thing I didn't do is remove the set screw in Mmp Sights. Some guns have. This is the, I'm just going to leave that on there. Now I'll put this back on. So always make sure you remove any set screws that you might have. Okay, so now I'm going to start. Now, one thing you got to know is which way the sights come off. Most sights, according to Wheeler and just general experience, that they are pushed on from the left to the right, so they need to be brought off from the right to the left. Mmp Sight puts their sights on from the right to the left, so we need to remove them from the left to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start turning this wheel here. And one thing I would like to do, because when they're hard, and you're putting your hand turning this, sometimes I get a socket here just to make it a little easier to turn. So I wouldn't mind if these are threaded. I haven't checked to machine something, a longer handle. Should be nice, but then you wouldn't be able to turn it as easy as this. So I think that's the easiest way to do it. After you get started, you might just make sure that the ramps there aren't touching the sight or the slide at all, marring it up. Like I said, I just put these off so they come off really easy. So we've done that. Now I'm going to set it back to the middle position. Unscrew this. And then I'm going to get my sight out. If you haven't tried these HD XRs, they're definitely one of my favorite sights. So now the Mmp, of course, the spring for the firing pin block comes out through the top, which is one thing I don't like about the Mmp, is that you have to remove the sights to fully disassemble it, but it's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this down, make sure it's not getting bound up, and then I'm going to slide this sight on part way first. That way it's already covered and I don't have to worry about it. Now I'll go ahead and put the sight on as far as I can get it by hand. and then drop this on top. I don't know why I moved it over to the middle. Now since I did that, I'm going to check my depth again, because sights are different. You want to make sure that you're pushing in the furthest down you can on the sight, but not enough to where you'll dig into the slide. So looking at those, I could probably go down a little bit. There we go. So now I'm just going to start slowly pushing this on. And I could actually come forward. Just want to make sure that it starts going on evenly. What I'm going to do is actually pull this slide back just a little bit. So I'm putting a little bit more towards the front on this pusher. Make sure I'm squared back up here, and put this back on. So it's a game of getting your adjustments right and knowing where the pusher is going to push. Making sure you're you're not torquing too much on the sights. You end up flexing them out, breaking them, putting them in crooked. I'm going to drop one more spade lower here. I think we'll be okay right there. There we go. Start pushing these sights on. And while I do that, just look down in there and make sure those aren't dragging across the slide. Now I've got this sight marked from where I took it off, so I know just about where I need to be. Right there. Alright, looks pretty good. Let's do the front sight now. Alright, so now we're going to remove the front sight. Now off camera, I did have to tap this front sight off just a little bit, because this sight was on there so tight. When I was pushing it off, it wanted to bring the slide out of the fixture, which will happen. I've seen it happen with I believe the XD. So that's something you might just be aware of, that I didn't want to put so much torque on it to get it out that I would end up breaking damaging the slide because it was putting so much torque to push this side out that it was bringing the slide up out of the fixture. So I just gave it a couple taps just to break it free, which is really amazing that you think of it, because I just put these sights on earlier today, and they weren't that hard to get on. Now I'm going to use the fixture to get it the rest of the way off. got that sight out of there. Let's go ahead and put our Trijicon on. Now, some sights, just so you know, I'm sure everybody does, may have to be fit to your slide. Even if they're made for the gun, some may require some stoning to get a nice fit, or so you can actually get them on. Not a nice fit, but some of them are just oversized. Which I believe I did have to do with these the first time I put them on. Now I'm trying to watch my marks there. Let's see, it marks there. I think we're pretty good. So obviously what you want to do is a final adjustment at the range, maybe. Go out, take some bench rested shots, and see where you're at, and maybe take the tool with you, because it is good to take with you and do it on the fly so you get them perfectly adjusted. But for the most part, you can do most of it with the tool itself. So that is the Wheeler Engineering sight pusher. You see we had a little trouble there with the wanting to lift the slide up out of, and a lot of that's because I just don't want to put too much torque on the side, even though the frame would handle it, or the slide would handle it, I'm sure. It's just easier to throw it in the vise real quick, give it a couple swift taps just to knock the sight loose. They're pretty tight, and most sights are pretty tight, especially if you work on like an XD, XDM. I mean, they like freaking almost weld their sights in. And there's some other ones out there that I've ran into that are like that. Alright, so what I'll say about it is, if you know, it's a good pusher for the money. For if you can pick it up for 100, 120 bucks, I think it's one of the better pushers out there. But of course it's not perfect. That was a little bit of a trouble there, and you know, I can't comment on the MGW because I haven't used it. So, you know, if you're doing sights all day every day, that might be the sight to use, even though I know a lot of people are just keen to the old plastic punch, brass punch method. This is a way that you can get accurate adjustments on top of changing out sights. Now if you're just putting on one set of sights to your carry gun, you're not going to do a bunch of sights, and it might just be better to go to the gunsmith, pay 10 to 20 bucks, have them put them on. But if you're not, and you're a hobbyist that removes sights all the time, or you're planning on adding more night sights here and there, then this may be the tool for you. It's not perfect. It has its flaws there, like I showed you. But overall, I think it's a good value. A good sight pusher for the money. Wheeler makes a lot of products. They make a lot of hobbyist type gunsmithing tools. I mean, I say hobbyist, but entry level. I mean, they're not, you know, top notch stuff, but you know, they do make good stuff for the hobbyist or for the intermittent gunsmith, just getting into the trade. So yeah, check it out. Let me know if you have one of these, and if you're gonna pick one up, you know, check Midway and Brownells. They usually run sales on them all the time. I mean, like all the time, for around 128 bucks, 130. So pick it up. Let me know what you think about it next time on the Gun Bench. We'll see you.